Module 2, General Techniques Used in Court. Video 2, Engaging with Treatment and Service Providers. Topic 1, Facilitating the relationship between the person appearing before the court and treatment and service providers.
The relationship with the service providers, the lawyers, other people in the courtroom is very important. Prosecutor, they're all absolutely crucial to the success of the outcomes that we're seeking. It's really not all about the judicial officer at all. The judicial officer, the magistrate, really enables those parties to participate and to be involved and to, in a sense, get the best out of those participants in the courtroom process. So they need to be acknowledged, and certainly for community organisations, people who come from the community need to be welcomed and acknowledged and respected for their contribution. Again, like many defendants or offenders who come before the court, they're apprehensive, cautious about being in court and don't necessarily want to be directly involved. That is, they don't necessarily want to speak to the court, speak to the magistrate, and so need to be encouraged often to, and to, as I say, be respected and welcomed in being able to make that contribution to the outcome. Because they're, of course, the people that are going to continue to work with the client, with the accused person, with the offender upon them leaving the courtroom. So to not include them in the process really undermines the success of what's going to occur during the deferred sentencing period. One thing I certainly do in regard to ensuring that that relationship continues is that I speak with the person who's before the court about their engagement with that service provider, what they find positive, perhaps what they find not so positive, what would be beneficial if it was a little different, or what other services might be provided, so that style of discussion occurs so that it's a good match between what the person needs who's before the court and what service is being provided to them.
Where someone's going to have an ongoing relationship with a service provider, sometimes, and the service provider's in court, so it might be even the credit bail worker or a KISS worker, I will actually ask them, what do you need to be able to help this person, and what are your expectations? So they might talk about, well, look, I need you to come to your appointments on time, and if you're running late, I need you to call me. And so that just starts to build that the expectations and the accountability, and so people are clear about what their obligations are, and that they have they need to show respect to that person who's actually assisting them, and that's a way of building, I think, that idea that you're a citizen, you're part of a community, and you're not just an offender.
Topic 2, Improving Communication with Treatment and Service Providers.
They don't necessarily ask questions of each other, but they certainly would have a discussion with me, and I might be speaking to the accused person, and then I might raise issues or raise matters then with the service provider, with the professional, or vice versa. So there would be a conversation in that way rather than as between the two of them. And I support that relationship. I don't have a therapeutic relationship. It's not appropriate for me as a magistrate to have that therapeutic relationship or that counselling relationship that the person has with their service provider, but I support that, and I encourage the person to continue to maintain that relationship, because often they have service providers or they have professionals who they're working with, but they have either disengaged from them or have a very problematic engagement with those with that professional or service provider. So part of my role, I see it as to be able to support, encourage the maintenance of that relationship.
I try and identify the important people in the courtroom and to acknowledge their presence, and particularly when I'm sentencing, to acknowledge the contribution that they've made to my understanding of a person's situation and the importance that they'll play in the plan that arises as a result of the sentence. So I try and encourage them to have an ongoing role.
Topic 3. Developing good relationships with treatment and service providers.
In the courtroom, I would acknowledge who is present, and I'd like to know from the lawyers or from the person who's before the court themselves as to who's come along with them. And that gives me an opportunity to speak directly, albeit briefly, with the service provider as to what organisation they're from and what the connection is with the person who's before the court. So it's a fairly brief, perhaps perfunctory conversation, but at least it acknowledges them and includes them in the courtroom dynamic, if you like. Apart from that, I would meet with service providers out in the community, or they might come to the court for meetings or to speak with other service providers that exist within the Neighbourhood Justice Centre. But I still take the opportunity to speak and go out to different groups from time to time. As to how often that occurs, it would be roughly monthly.
Module 2 also includes the following resources. Video 1, Communication Techniques. Background materials, tip sheet,